boy. Sammy!
I've always been the baddest on the block.
I came to AEW to dominate.
Double Jeff Perry.
Nobody is going to take this away from me. This is mine once again.
All right, hello everybody, and welcome to this week's Week in Review, AEW edition though. And it's really rainy and snowy here, and it's cold, and it's one of those stay inside kind of days, but apparently we're going to IKEA, so that's not happening. However, if my voice sounds slightly ASMR-esque, that is exactly why. It's that kind of day, and we're doing something a little bit different this week. For those of you that follow me on the Twitter, if you don't, it's at Mimi Burris. You can follow me on the Twitter, or you don't have to. I'll be okay either way. I won't know about it. You know that this week has been just another crazy week in the world of my life. So I decided we change it up a little bit this weekend because I wasn't able to hop on Thursday morning, Thursday evening, Wednesday evening, and do a Dynamite review. I figured this was an eventful week altogether with Revolution, Dynamite, and Rampage. Let's talk about the whole thing all together. And so clearly we are not going to cover every topic. There's a lot to go over. There were a lot of debuts, as always, because AEW just seems to throw debuts at the wall and see what sticks. I guess that is the benefit of having more money than I could even try to imagine obtaining in my lifetime. And so, yeah, we're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about some turns. We're going to talk about some factions breaking up, some new factions, a whole lot to get into, you guys. And so without further ado, we've already played the intro. I was going to say, if you guys don't do the DMD along with the intro, you're not a human being to me. You can be a human being to yourself, but I don't know if you're a human being to me. And we're just going to get into it. We're going to quickly plug Patreon, which is only $1 a month to get all these ads. You will get no ads if you subscribe to Patreon. But if you do subscribe to Patreon, you'll get all these shows ad-free. You can also subscribe on iTunes to do the exact same thing. So we got options for you. We got options here. And there are a bunch of other amazing shows on this podcast with an NXT review from Zach Smith, who I owe a text back to. We've got a Smackdown review show, we've got a Raw review show, a Week in Review, a WWE edition, and so much more. So make sure you are checking out everybody's wonderful shows here on the WWE podcast. And now let's talk about AEW, guys. And I don't really know where to start, but I guess the perfect place is to kick off chronologically as we usually do, and we're probably going to do a lot of jumping around here, but we're going to start off with the Revolution and just go over a few things that happened on the pre-show. Real quick, Hook. What is there to say about a Hook match that hasn't been said already, you guys? Always phenomenal, always great, always so over. Just, I'm loving what's happening. I'm loving the phenomenon that is Hook. Fun fact, it's not that fun, but I was texting my brother, who's kind of casually watches the show, definitely knows what we're talking about here, but is not nearly probably as into it as some of you might be, and myself probably. However, he does catch the big shows and know what's going on, so this is like a 26-year-old man. He texted me and he said, I don't get the Hook thing. And I, my best answer is, I don't think there's anything to get. It's just so cool. He's just so cool. So, again, QT Marshall, as he did also on Rampage, like I said, we're already jumping around, as he did on Rampage with Keith Lee, the man can bump. I think it's a little bit weird. I felt like on Rampage, like, I don't know, I think I'd rather see Keith Lee throw around Aaron Solo than QT Marshall, just because just the size discrepancy doesn't, like, there's not enough of it for me, but I thought he was even better in the match with Hook on the pre-show, so I did really enjoy that, you guys. And what else on the pre-show? Layla Hirsch versus Chris Statlander. I thought the women, first of all, Chris Statlander is, I think I've said it before, is the most underrated superstar. Oh my God. I'm just going to leave it in. I'm just going to keep going. She is the most underrated professional wrestler on this roster. She is so good and is able to have a banger with just about everybody. And I say that because she had a banger with Ruby Soho. And you guys know how I feel on that front. So, yeah, I think this match, it was definitely choppy at points, but I thought there was a lot of effort. I liked that there were I think there were 3 whole women's matches on this card. Like, we're making progress here, pre-show or not. And I liked the finish, and I thought it made sense. But some of these spots were really just fun and hard-hitting. And really, I thought this match in particular kicked off what became just a really violent pay-per-view. Like, the dropping on people's heads and it's just like gritty and violent. And this was, to me, like the precursor to all of it. So I really enjoyed that, and obviously with Layla Hirsch getting the win. Overall, guys, before I get into the main card, I will say there was also that 6-man tag team match, which was good. I don't know. The story has not been like super ideal for me. I know a lot of people are into the House of Black stuff, so that's great. It was good to see Eric Redbeard, but this is exactly what you would expect kind of to have with these 6 men. Like, it was a banger of a match. There's not much more analyzing to do than that. Buddy Matthews looks incredible. I hope he's able to do some single stuff one day, but he can't be that young. Again, I know it's my gimmick to know how old people are, but I don't know how old he is. He looks about in his 30s. Am I right about that? 33. Yeah, okay, so he's got plenty of time. I'd like to see plenty of time. Like, I am. Bryan Danielson is in his 40s, as are many of some of the other greater wrestlers in the world right now. So that's my point. He's got plenty of time, God willing, and I just would like to be able to see some more singles stuff in his mainstream North American career. Let's put it that way. So, but yeah, I enjoyed the match as everybody did. Some of the spots they did were absolutely absurd. There was that like slingshot Canadian Destroyer thing that Penta did again. That was just absolutely ridiculous. But and then this, guys, I'm gonna do my best to be the most positive I possibly can be. I promise. And we're not gonna dive into everything here. As I say that, I'm saying that more for myself, less for you guys, because we don't have time to cover everything that happened this week. But I do want to quickly say that I'm going to do my best to be positive about Revolution, but there was some stuff that I just didn't agree with and just didn't flow well for me. I thought the whole pay-per-view as a whole, I've heard people say it was better than All Out. I just totally disagree with that. But again, that's a subjective point of view. So you're going to enjoy what you're going to enjoy, and I'm going to enjoy what I'm going to enjoy, and that's really all this whole thing is. So with that being said, same deal with this opening match. I don't think this was the match that should have opened the show. I think, yes, it was awesome. It started off with Chris Jericho getting dropped on his head, which was really uncomfortable for me. Just to watch a 50-year-old man get dropped on his head, it was a little just scary. I mean, a lot of these bumps were really scary, but as over as Eddie Kingston is, and, Chris Jericho, obviously, with the stuff that happened on Dynamite, which we'll talk about in a minute as well, I guess it makes a little more sense. I just think, I don't know, knowing what happened with the women's division match now, the main title with Britt Baker and Thunder Rosa, it makes a little bit more sense. But I would have loved to see them kick this pay-per-view off. I thought that would have been a really cool, like, a new trend to put, because that crowd was hot. Right off the back in that pay-per-view, they were hot for this match, and I think it would have been a good slot to put the women into. Yeah, you've trained your audience to not really care much about your women's division, so I think it would have been a good counter argument to that whole point, and I think it would have been a perfect match for this opening slot. But they didn't do that. They did not do that. They went with Chris Jericho and Eddie Kingston, and yeah, this match was violent and hard hitting, and it wasn't 5 stars to me. And I think Chris Jericho oversold it on the promo on Dynamite that Wednesday, but it wasn't one of the greatest matches of his career to me at all. It was good, don't get me wrong, and like I said, I sound spoiled because these guys are dropping each other on their heads, but it wasn't. Chris Jericho in his illustrious 30-plus year career has had way better matches than this. So I thought they oversold that a little bit. But wrestling's funny that way. Pro wrestling's kind of like, it's like the season finale every month, but then the next season kicks off right the next day. So you kind of got to keep it going. It's like, this is the biggest deal in the world, but then next week is going to be the biggest deal in the world, and then the next week is going to be the biggest main event that ever happened, and this pay-per-view is going to be the biggest pay-per-view that ever happened. It's kind of... It's just the suspension of disbelief that we have to have as wrestling fans. And it's not hard. It's not hard most of the time, especially when you get, like, good matches. Like I said, I enjoyed this for the most part. I think I'm just not... I'm not as high on this feud as other people are. So I don't think it deserved the coveted opening of Revolution pay-per-view slot. I think other matches could deserve that. You could have put this tag team match, this triple threat, this three-way Jurassic Express, Red Dragon, and Young Bucks tag team match as the opening thing. That would have worked as well. You could have put the Face of the Revolution ladder match first, I thought. You could have put MJF versus CM. I really think that should have been the main event. Honestly, if I were to maybe have booked this card, knowing what I know now about the women's division and all this stuff, I might have put the World Championship match first. Put that on the card first, and I would have put what's it called? I would have put CM Punk and MJF as the main event last. I know they have a rule where they like to keep the World Heavyweight Championship as the main event always, but I don't know, when clearly the greatest story being told going into this match, at least I think subjectively, but from what I've seen, from what other people view, there's a lot of people in agreement, is MJF, CM Punk, and I think that absolutely should have been the main event. It just told a better story than Adam Cole and Adam Page did, which to me, not to jump ahead, but was kind of it seems like they're doing more with it, and I don't think this is the end game for that feud at all, but it definitely felt like a precursor rather than like some big finale, and I don't think it deserved the main event slot, title or no title. All right, so let's move on. Let's keep going, because we talked about Chris Jericho and Eddie Kingston, so I guess let's jump on over to Dynamite. I'm really trying to change things up and not do it in the typical chronological order, but I'm going to be honest with you guys. It's not easy. I don't know how Matt does this, but... So yeah, on Dynamite, our first opening segment was another promo segment. Chris Jericho coming out and basically saying that he was a little bitch boy, and he should shake Eddie Kingston's hands, or he should have shook Eddie Kingston's hand. Little do we know, of course, this is all a trap. 2.0, after they shake hands, 2.0 come out and attack them, and in my head I'm like, oh my gosh. 2.0, and Daniel Garcia, who, by the way, looked like an absolute piece in that white tank top looking thing. I try not to call it a wife beater anymore, because I feel like somebody should have canceled that by now. But yeah, so Daniel Garcia 2.0 come out for the beatdown, and I said, I swear to God, I swear to gosh, I swear to whoever, Father of the universe, whatever, Mother Nature, I swear if we go back to this, I'm gonna need an inhaler again, or I don't know, I'm gonna need an antacid. Because I do not want to see more 2.0 Eddie Kingston, Chris Jericho, Inner Circle crap anymore. Like, we did every variation of the match. Yes, this was a little bit different, of course. So instead, what we had was the turn, and Chris Jericho turned. And really, I did like that they really just threw Jericho down to the ground, and he sold the neck, and they didn't really beat him up much. They just beat down Eddie Kingston. So that made more sense to me than... I'm going to go way off track here. I don't know if any of you guys ever watched TNA. If you did, I'm sorry. No, I'm kidding. If you watched Impact and TNA, like Power or Impact Now, TNA formerly, power to you. I actually wish I had more time to watch Impact Now, which is a totally different show than TNA was back in the day. And when I say back in the day, I'm talking about like 5-10 years ago. So Bully Ray, Aces and Eights, this whole feud storyline thing was essentially, they were like finding out who essentially Bully Ray at the end of this reveals himself to be in Aces and Eights, this faction. And the problem is like 17 times on the road to that reveal, Bully Ray got the crap beat out of him by the faction. So it's like, I had to take those beatdowns for the greater good, but like, no, you just look stupid. And like, I'm not a goldfish. I remember those things. Even at 12 years old, I remember those things. And then I saw, I got sick of Hulk Hogan on my TV, so I stopped watching that. I had a lot more spare time as a 12-year-old. So I managed to be able to watch a little bit more wrestling, TNA in my day. And there was no AEW. So it was literally the only alternative that a little 12-year-old Mimi had in North American wrestling. So I enjoyed all that to say is I enjoyed the fact, and I liked the fact in small detail that they didn't attack Chris Jericho really, because that always looks stupid to me. I don't know how long this has been going on, forming this whole faction. I don't know how long it's been going on. I thought the Pinnacle formation was a lot more well done, making sensible wise, but like, yeah, so we have, for those of you who don't know, it is, or need a reminder, 2.0, Chris Jericho, Daniel Garcia, and Jake Hager, who, like, had a moment, like, came out, and he was like, what are you doing, Chris Jericho? And then he was like, oh, wait, okay, I know where my bread is buttered. Like, I am nothing if I am not Chris Jericho's heavy. And it's pretty much true at this point in AEW. He looks great. by the way. Jake Hager got himself in shape. For whatever reason, he did that. Power to him. He looks awesome. Maybe we see him in the octagon again at some point, or maybe he just wanted to get in shape. Maybe his contract was up. I don't know exactly what was going on, but yeah. So that's your new faction, and they are called the Jericho Appreciation Society or something like that. Am I messing that up? Jericho Appreciation Group, and a couple things. I like that they beat down Santana and Ortiz. I don't know if I mentioned that part as well. They came out to try to make the save, and really, Chris Jericho like smacked them with that baseball bat with Floyd. They did the Chris Jericho sledgehammer spot, which I absolutely can't stand, but we all have our own little like things that bother us in pro wrestling, and that's one of them. Like I'm not for. I see your hand. Like, it's just they got to come up with a better way to do something like that. So, anyways, they don't have to. It works, and I don't think a lot of other people have a problem with it. It's just one of my pet peeves. But yeah, so couple positives to this and a couple negatives. Highs and lows, for lack of a better term. Throwback to that. I'm excited for the back and forth between 2.0 and Chris Jericho. I think that's going to be great. I like the self-awareness of Chris Jericho, owning up to the fact that, yeah, like, he's been kind of a you-know-what lately. And now he gets to actually live up to that. I don't know what they're going to do about Judas. I assume nothing. I assume he's just going to continue to be sung to the ring, and then we're supposed to boo him afterwards. I don't know how I feel about that. I think the song is great, and I think the whole Judas vibe thing is like if you haven't been to a live AEW show, it's special. It's like a special thing to be a part of. It's true. So I don't know what they're going to do with that, but yeah, I think 2.0 and Chris Jericho are going to have great back and forth. I think Daniel Garcia is going to learn a lot from being around some of the guys that he is, specifically Chris Jericho more so. But I think Daniel Garcia looked great. I don't know if I don't know, this is like nor positive, not positive, nor is it negative, but I don't know if I like Daniel Garcia being in this group. I don't think, like, he doesn't come off to me like he should be in a group called the Jericho Appreciation Society or whatever they called them. I'm not sure about that. Maybe, and I'm going to let this play out, maybe this is all a, slow but sure turn of whether they turn on Chris Jericho or vice versa, and, Daniel Garcia just gets sick of his you-know-what. I was, like, especially after they've been teasing maybe Daniel Garcia to be in this dojo thing with William Regal and Bryan Danielson and Jon Moxley. So, I don't know, it just didn't really... I was hoping Daniel Garcia was going to be a little bit more associated with them when he broke away from 2.0, but it sounds like he's sticking with 2.0, and I'm willing to let it play out. I'm excited to see the chemistry between all these guys. I don't know what this is going to look like, and I'm not, it's kind of too early to make any opinions on it. That's where I'd see things going, is maybe a slow turn from, I assume 2.0 and Daniel Garcia and everybody would just turn on him, similar to like what we saw later on in the show with, the Hardy family office, the Andrade Hardy family office thing. What did Mary call it last week? Like the Hardy house party or something like that? I love that. So yeah, I can't really make any judgments on where they're going from here. Sammy Guevara, conspicuous by his absence. I'm curious to know what Sammy Guevara is going to be thinking about this. Just lost his TNT title to Scorpio Sky on the main event of this same show, and no Inner Circle to fall back on. So I don't know what happens with Sammy Guevara. I don't know where we're going with that. We're going to talk about that a little bit later on as we continue to go down the Revolution card. I think I'm going to use Revolution here as kind of a starting point. But yeah, so, and another positive to this was Eddie Kingston. Eddie Kingston's promo was just like tear-jerking wonderful. And, like, what else is new? But really, he just manages to make this thing feel so much realer than it already does. He has such I can't think of another word to it. He just has such a realness about him. And when he shut that guy down for trying to do the what chance, that was wonderful. It's just wonderful. I'm excited to see, that brings me to, like, I'm excited to see when Eddie Kingston and Jon Moxley's paths kind of cross again. I don't know how we're going to get there, but I have a feeling they probably have some kind of roadmap to get there. So, yeah, I enjoyed I enjoyed this, and I'm excited to see where it goes. And I'm definitely on board with them switching stuff up. I think the Inner Circle, I don't think it was dry at any point. I think because they really didn't drain the well that much at that point because we hadn't seen them together a lot. But I also don't know, like, more 2.0 Santana and Ortiz stuff. No, thank you. I thought Santana and Ortiz and Chris Jericho just kind of made up. I don't know. I'm gonna stop now and move on to the next thing. I'm gonna let it play out. I'm excited to see what happens. I'm excited to see where this goes. And the next match on the Revolution card was Jurassic Express versus Red Dragon versus the Young Bucks. Similar to the beginning match, I think you could have cut off about 5 minutes of this because there was about 3 minutes. 3 minutes. I'll be generous. It's like, I get it. You guys cannot coexist. You have a plan you're not going to stick to. Jurassic Express is going to retain because you guys aren't. Like, this was just such an obvious story. Like, it was so clear as day the minute they announced a three-way. It was very contrived how we got to this whole point. So, as enjoyable as the journey was with all these great matches and stuff like that, and the Young Bucks is just like a typical Young Bucks match. There's nothing, Young Bucks, Jurassic Express, Red Dragon. I'm not going to complain about the quality of the in-ring whatsoever. It was just kind of clear, like, what was going to happen. The Young Bucks and the Red Dragon were going to work together without, like, who was going to win the title at the end. Like, what's the plan? They're like, you didn't stick to the plan. Like, how is this going to work out in the end? One of you has to pin somebody else. Somebody has to win this match. So, just the little plot holes like that. Maybe, and in my little head canon, I was basically like, maybe they wanted to take out Jurassic Express so they could fight it out between themselves, a mutual respect kind of thing. But, like, I had to make that own story up in my head. I don't know, maybe that was the plan they were referencing to. But I just think, I think as fun as this was, it was a lot of moving parts, lived up to the hype of a Young Bucks three-way match, absolutely, again, with Red Dragon and Jurassic Express. I thought there were some absolutely insane spots, the high-flying spots, destroyer destroyer moves, and people getting dropped on their head. Again, more violence, more craziness, awesome. Like, I cannot complain about the quality of the match whatsoever. It just went a little long for me. To tell a very obvious story, it was very self-indulgent and unnecessary. For what was just going to be a title retention, and I don't think anybody was doubting that. So, but Bobby Fish, by the way, looks like 10 years younger. Just want to throw that out there. So, in regards to Jurassic Express, Young Bucks, not Eddie Kingston, now I'm thinking about him because of this first thing we were talking about here. In regards to Jurassic Express, Red Dragon, and the Young Bucks, we move on, and I guess this kind of brings us to the main event of the show as well. But later on, when we were talking about Adam Cole coming out after the match against Dante Martin on Dynamite, basically being like, I'm gonna, you get two of you guys, I'm gonna get two of my best friends, they're young guys, they're whatever, we're gonna team up. And then it ended up being not the Young Bucks because they don't want to fight Hangman Page. They're quote-unquote over it, you know what I mean? Which really is like this slow, wonderful face turn for the Young Bucks that's just happening. That's the one thing I really enjoyed about this match. If you watch carefully, yeah, they're little, cocky, you-know-whats. Like, they're still doing their thing. But if there's little by little, like, during their entrance, I noticed as well, like, there are subtly, very slowly, a face turn coming, and I'm looking forward to it. And we got more hints dropped about it with Adam Cole teaming up with Red Dragon to face next week on Dynamite to face Hangman Page and Jurassic Express. So, it just feels like a lot of different combinations of rematches, though. I'll say that. So, all right, moving down, we had the Face the Revolution ladder match, and this was absolutely wild. I loved the Orange Cassidy spots. There was a spot where Orange Cassidy just got thrown over, like whoever was on the outside supposed to catch him. Like, he just got chucked a little bit too far. The spot with Wardlow and Hobbs and Keith Lee on the stage was awesome. Oh, poor Ricky Starks with the powerbomb from Wardlow. But all in all, guys, Wardlow taking the cake, taking the brass ring. This was probably I enjoyed watching this match this was the best, like, cocaine-filled spot match of the whole night. I think over the tag, like, for me, subjectively, I just enjoyed it more than the tag team match. I enjoyed it more than the match we got before the main event. This was just so much fun to me. I'm invested in so many of these guys. I really like Will Hobbs. Really think Powerhouse Hobbs has got a lot going for him. I think Ricky Starks is incredible. Who doesn't think Ricky Starks is incredible? Like, he is just oozing charisma. Everybody loves Orange Cassidy. Wardlow, what they're doing with Wardlow is just absolutely incredible, and we will talk about his stuff on Dynamite too as we get to the CM Punk MJF match. Keith Lee. I'm a little worried. It's kind of fading into what are you doing now, just going against Team Taz. It seems like most of these new debuts just go and face Team Taz, or they face QT Marshall, and Keith Lee has done that all in one night on Rampage. So, and Christian Cage, probably somebody there just to help these guys put this match together, honestly. And yeah, I think Wardlow winning was an awesome decision, especially with what we got followed up on Dynamite on Wednesday. But we'll get to that as we talk about the CM Punk and MJF match, which was soon to be after the TBS title match between Jade Cargill and Ty Conti. Another fun match, similar to the pre-show match between Chris Statlander and Layla Hirsch. I thought this was a little clunky at points, but it definitely felt like a fight rather than a match, and I think that was the place to go with it. Both women still obviously on the newer side. Ty Conti has been awesome to watch develop and get better each time, though. And yeah, they just like hit each other, and that's what I've come on this podcast how many times, guys, just saying like hit each other. Just hit each other. Stop with these weird spots and trying to do this move and that move. Just like beat the crap out of each other, safely, as you do in pro wrestling. And these two women definitely did that. Jade Cargill looked awesome. I didn't think this match needed to be on the pay-per-view. Again, I think maybe if this whole thing was sequenced differently, I would have had a different view on it. But another match I didn't think needed to be on the pay-per-view. TNT title wasn't defended on the pay-per-view. I didn't think this one needed to be either. But maybe they didn't want to set that precedent that every pay-per-view TNT title and TBS title aren't defended. It just seemed, again, it was kind of unnecessary, but not because it wasn't a good match. Just there was a lot of wrestling on the show. You guys. But I did enjoy it nonetheless, and it was a nice change of pace, I thought, from the rest of the card. But moving on down the line here, guys. CM Punk versus MJF. For me, the match of the night. Uncomfortable. Absolutely, definitely uncomfortable. The marks of the chain on these guys' bodies, the amount of blood, especially CM Punk. He is the second best bleeder in AEW, right behind the Bunny. But yeah, I mean, the promo that he cut beforehand as well about how he was, we got to change CM Punk. The promo that he cut on Rampage, before the actual pay-per-view. I mean, and then the story beats throughout this entire match. First of all, the gear, the ring. There's some. Correct me. You guys can't correct me right now, I guess, because you're not in the room with me. But from what I understand, there was some discourse online about like the Ring of Honor music and that it was confusing for some people and it needs to be better, like so everybody can understand, even casual fans and stuff like that. And I'm thinking to myself, like, I think CM Punk himself was the one who said the casual fan doesn't really exist. This mythical casual fan. And even if you didn't know about the Ring of Honor music and the gear and all that stuff, like, first of all, I think Excalibur explained it. And second of all, like right away. And second of all, like 99% of us are on the internet. You know what I mean? If you're watching this pay-per-view, you probably have some connection to the internet. Look it up. It is not that hard to find and figure out. Information is right there. It's not like you had to go grab your local encyclopedia and look it up in a book. It's literally right there at our fingertips, guys. So I don't know what the discourse behind that was. I thought it was a really awesome change of pace and a move because CM Punk, or MJF, who, you know, this idea that was pitched by so many people, oh my god, MJF should come out with CM Punk's music, and then it won't actually be CM Punk, it'll be MJF, and it'll be this really good heat-seeking thing, and yada yada yada. Like, that whole thing that we all pitched, they end up doing, but they do at the blow-off of the feud. Just so awesome. And then CM Punk couldn't really come out of a cult to personality after that, so he comes out to the Ring of Honor music, looking intense as always, all white, of course, the white basketball shorts, saving him until now. So we see just again CM Punk bled. I mean, it was, like I said, it was uncomfortable and worrisome at some points. And then, guys, the ending. There were all these wonderful little beats in this match. The thumbtacks, I thought, it was built to really, really well. Salt to the earth, the Anaconda Vice. Like, this was not a thriller match like your Face of the Revolution ladder match or the three-way tag team match we got earlier on. Like, this was a different kettle of fish. And if you like this kind of stuff, then you loved this. Just so many little details that were paid attention to so well. And the thumbtacks looked like, I don't even think you couldn't even see him in his back as much as you have been able to in other matches. But the way they built to it was so well done that, like, it felt like a guy was falling on thumbtacks. Like, I was not desensitized at this point. I don't know how maybe you guys didn't feel the same way, but I just think they took their time getting from one spot to the other, and this match deserved all the amount of time it got. Like I said, I really think this should have been the main event, especially with the ending. Wardlow coming out, unable to find the ring. Max is yelling for him, unable to find the ring, and then up. It's just, we've all had that moment, you know what I mean? We think something's in one pocket, we think our wallet's in one pocket, we got 6 other pockets, and it is in the other one. And what does Wardlow do? Exactly what MJF asks him to do in the first place, and just leaves the ring in the ring. Leaves the ring in the ring. Leaves the diamond ring in the wrestling ring. And CM Punk ends up using it and throw it back all the way to the beginning of this feud, right? What did CM Punk say to MJF? He said, the only way you're able to win, I'm paraphrasing, the only way you're able to win, the only way you've gotten this far is with Wardlow in that ring. And what does CM Punk do to defeat to defeat MJF? Wardlow in that dang old diamond ring. My favorite match of the night. Again, hard to watch, and definitely a bunch of callbacks to the Ring of Honor match, the dog collar match in Ring of Honor with Raven and CM Punk. But definitely the most well-told story up to this point, and well-told story throughout the match. Let's talk about Dynamite, though, guys. Let's talk about what a lovable human being Wardlow is. I assume all the stuff that he said was like a true story and whatever else, but he comes out, talks about that he grew up in a poor family, and he took the job with MJF because it would allow him to get a foot in the door into being a professional wrestler, because he's always loved professional wrestling, and have some money to support his family. He needed financial stability. However, MJF embarrassing him, humiliating him, and the last straw being that he slapped him on, I think it was Rampage, or was it? No, it was Dynamite after the segment. It was after the beatdown segment with CM Punk. That being the last straw, with such another nice detail where, again, similar to the Chris Jericho stuff, where all this stuff is paid attention to. So it doesn't look like, why did Wardlow go out there and help MJF and beat up CM Punk, but then, the next night he's like, oh, never mind, forget about that, I was just acting. Like, no, the last straw happened afterwards, in between those two things. So really, really, really strong promo. Wonderfully well spoken. But when he tripped up on his words, which he did, because, a promo is not easy, and this is still newer to Wardlow for us, but even when he did, he came across so endearing, just like a good guy. And I hate to make the comparison, and I don't know if anybody else has or whatever, but this is what Brian Cage lacked, for me at least. Not just a great story with two of the greatest storytellers in professional wrestling right now, with this being a part of that whole storyline, once in a lifetime, all-time dream feud happening. That was helpful for Wardlow for sure too, but what he has that kind of Brian Cage was lacking for me was just this genuine feeling of I don't even want to use charisma, because that's not the right word, but likability. Who else in the room likes Wardlow and thought Wardlow came across wonderful? Because I haven't heard a bad thing said about this promo. So he was awesome, really impressing, exceeded the high expectations he already had, and I'm really looking forward to what's happening next. Obviously, he said, I'm still under contract with MJF, but I just don't give a crap anymore. And this is Wardlow's war now, Wardlow's world now. So I'm I'm excited to see what happens with MJF. Obviously, we know MJF, the benevolent man, is not just going to let Wardlow, be done with the contract and move on and sign with AEW once he wins the TNT title, if he does. I was thinking about it today as I was watching Rampage this morning, actually, and I'm wondering, is Wardlow going to beat Scorpio Sky? It almost felt like a given, and I know we haven't talked about that yet either, so spoiler alerts, but now that I'm thinking about it, like, I think one of two things happens. One, he beats Scorpio Sky easily. 1, 2, 3, boom, Powerbomb Symphony, easy. Or two, he doesn't beat him, and it's because of Shawn Spears and MJF. The Pinnacle is no more, supposedly. So I think it's really just MJF and Shawn Spears at this point, which I want them to stay together, absolutely. I think Shawn Spears is a perfect little side guy for MJF, and I think he plays his role perfectly. So I don't want that to change, but we're going to talk about that, I guess, too. Or we can talk about it right now. There we go. Because I don't think I have that anywhere in my notes, so I don't want to miss it. But, yeah, I don't want to say that. I don't know if the Pinnacle broke up or FTR left the Pinnacle, but they definitely kicked out Tully Blanchard, which, I assume he's going to stick with some backstage stuff, and that's fine. And honestly, I think it was nice that AEW gave Tully Blanchard the recognition that he never really got for being, one of the Four Horsemen. But I'm not going to miss Arn Anderson and him threatening to have a match every other week. I don't need to see the old men fight, go just do your thing. That's okay. So if Tully Blanchard is just going to be like a backstage presence now, or maybe they just kind of don't need him anymore, that's okay too. Like, people have this weird view that, like, people's contracts running out and stuff like that, like, is this terrible thing. Like, yeah, in some cases it's sad, and you never want somebody to lose their job, but, like, and I'm not saying Tully Blanchard's contract ran out. I don't know what his status is and what's going on next, and like I said, he's probably just going to do backstage stuff, but, like, when wrestlers or promoters or whoever, managers, all this stuff, like, their contracts ran out or they were done in one promotion or whatever, like, you move on to a new promotion. And I'm not saying he's going to WWE or anything like that. Maybe he goes and plays a big part in the whole Ring of Honor thing they're going to start up. So, whatever he does, I'm sure he's going to be fine because he's Tully freaking Blanchard. But it was surprising, and I'm curious to know what's the deal with FTR and the Pinnacle. If they are all still, buddy-buddy, or if we are getting a split off from them, or if we're just not going to talk about the Pinnacle for like 3 months again for some weird reason. Yeah, I'm excited to see. But Wardlow is no more with the Pinnacle, and MJF. I'm so happy that MJF and CM Punk, yes, we got a bloody CM Punk promo, but after the match for Revolution that aired, but I'm so happy that better than Chris Jericho getting pushed off the blood and guts cage, CM Punk and MJF sold the injuries and the gravity of that dog collar match that happened on Sunday by not appearing the same freaking week on Dynamite. So, all right, guys, let's move on down to Britt Baker. Let's talk about the women's division. Let's talk about this women's division title match. So, kind of a weird journey I had with this one, or I think a lot of other people had too. And I want to say that this match definitely under-delivered. It was a disappointment. It was absolutely a disappointment, and I don't think it was all the women's fault. I do think that the chemistry that Britt Baker and Thunder Rosa seemingly displayed in this Lights Out match, this like elusive Lights Out match, honestly, guys, I was a big fan of it too. I thought it was a great match, but we have built that thing up way too much at this point as this like all-timers classic. It was a really good match. And it was a really awesome step for the women's division, and it was bloody and violent, and it made these two women's careers. Definitely. More so Britt Baker, obviously, and she'll tell you that up and down 95, but like, it having a good match almost a year ago is not a good excuse for putting on this, B, C plus at best, back and forth, 15-minute match, whatever it was. First of all, they got put in between Jon Moxley and Bryan Danielson and CM Punk and MJF. You could have put any match in between there, and it would have struggled. I really think what you should have done is put probably like the Face of the Revolution ladder match in between there. That probably would have been something to get people hyped up again. But yeah, I think this match on a whole disappointed, but it didn't disappoint because of the finish and because of the actual ending. I think you could have done this on TV, definitely. because obviously their plan was to get to the blow-off for the St. Patty's Day, whatever. Tony Khan loves a good year-long thing, year-long storyline. He loves a good start date, end date, So that's why we're getting the steel cage. And I said it exactly when Britt Baker won the match, retained the title. I said, watch, guys, there's going to be a steel cage match because of all this interference. It was clear as day where they were going, but it doesn't make an excuse to have a, B to C plus subpar mid match, 15-minute match on pay-per-view. Like, I don't know, like, you want people to pay per view, you got to give them something worth viewing. And this was a letdown. The new women's title, awesome. Finally, no more McDonald's toys, guys. We continue to push back and say we want better for this women's division because they deserve better. And we're just going to have to continue to keep doing that, obviously. On Dynamite, we had Thunder Rosa versus Layla Hirsch, which I thought was a great match, really. I thought these two women, I think, again, a little clunky, and that's just going to happen when you're still a little bit green. And honestly, I think there's a lot of pressure being put on Thunder Rosa to carry some of these women, too. I'm not saying Layla Hirsch isn't great. She definitely showed how awesome she was in that pre-show match, too. But I enjoyed the Layla Hirsch Thunder Rosa match more than I did the Britt Baker Thunder Rosa match, so let me put it that way. But yes, Thunder Rosa, oh my god, the way she sold the gravity of winning this number one contenders match, going to the steel cage, I thought was all really great. I didn't love Britt Baker's promo afterwards. I thought it was repetitive, redundant, which is ironic because I just said the two things, and you get it. If you get it, you get it. English jokes. And it all just felt very contrived as well. Again, it's kind of like, and I'm sure the destination, guys, this week on Dynamite is going to be awesome. I'm sure the steel cage is going to be awesome. The actual match itself, these two women seem to be able to pull stuff out of their you-know-whats, so I think this is going to be great, but the journey to get there is going to be remembered as a disappointment, for me at least, so sad. But something really good in the women's division I don't want to forget to mention is Serena Deeb and Hokarashida. Like, yes, it's on Rampage. Hokarashida had this promo about how she, I think it might have happened last week on Rampage, where she came, yes, her return, Hokarashida return, and she stopped Serena Deeb from beating the you-know-what out of a rookie after the match again. But the promo that she cut on Rampage this week about, you can try to break my leg again, but I'm going to, cut off your head. Oh my god, it was just, give me these two women in an Iron Woman match. I want it. I do. I want that. Give them the entire Rampage card for a night or something, if you won't put them on Dynamite. I think, it's been very match to build a match kind of feud, but it's one of my favorite things going on Dynamite. And as long as they don't try to this is one of the hottest feuds ever in Dynamite, don't patronize the women, pat on the head. Sometimes I feel that way when the commentators are like, this is one of the greatest feuds, and no, it's not. We've had feuds in AEW like Bryan Danielson versus Jon Moxley, which we're going to talk about next. We've had Eddie Kingston, CM Punk. We've had CM Punk, MJF. We've had Eddie Kingston, Jon Moxley. We've had Chris Jericho, Jon Moxley. We've had MJF, Chris Jericho for some people. We've had Hangman Page versus Kenny Omega. We're having, the whole Young Bucks, Kenny Omega, Hangman Page stuff still. We got the whole Adam Cole, Hangman Page. This is not one of the greatest feuds that has ever happened in AEW yet. But it's definitely entertaining, and these two women are awesome in the ring. So I'm excited to see where they go with that next. Hopefully they get enough TV time. And again, I say at least put them in a 30-minute Iron Woman match. Or I guess they don't really do that because give them an hour. Just give them an hour. I'd really love to see that. I think that would be awesome. Even if it's on Dark, I'll go. If you put an hour-long Iron Woman match, Serena Deeb versus Hokarashida on Dark, I'll watch it. 100%. I will make the time to watch that live. All right, moving on. Bryan Danielson versus Jon Moxley. That also happened on Revolution. I've heard some great stuff about this match. I've heard some not so great stuff about this match. And I think it was very, I don't mean repetitive, but I think that there were some really cool spots in this match. When they were just kicking each other in the head, when they were both locked up. I thought that on the ground, that looked really cool. They were belittled to children, just kicking each other in the head. That was a great spot. And the after the match part we'll talk about too was awesome, and where this is leading to is awesome. However, I think the vibe where we were at by the time we got to Bryan Danielson, Jon Moxley, the crowd, the vibe, everything, I think this, for me, was just the way that some matches had a little bit too much time on them, the way this whole thing was formulated, that this whole thing didn't really hit. I did love the ending. The ending, obviously, with the roll-up of Jon Moxley. And then afterwards, they still kept fighting, and it wasn't like, oh, that was just cheap finish. It was like, yeah, let them keep fighting, please. Like, totally fine with that. That finish made the most sense to me. And it keeps both men on equal footing. Like, I can kind of get you whenever, and you can kind of get me whenever. And then, which they should be for the story that they're telling, right? And then we had William Regal coming out, like Daddy Regal coming out, slapping the taste out of both of their mouths, and forming, first of all, cutting a heartfelt, lovely, just raw promo on, not raw promo, like raw as in feelings, not so over-scripted, not NXT War Games. Like, it was just a raw, nice promo on Dynamite with Tony Schiavone, kind of flirting with Tony Schiavone. I ship it. But yeah, on Dynamite with these two guys and talking about how Jon Moxley is this amazing professional wrestler in spite of all the stuff that he's been through, and Bryan Danielson is the exact exemplary of a perfect professional wrestler. And so, then they had a match with, I forget their, it was, and you know what, I'm going to look, because I want to give them credit, because these two guys were actually really good, and it was really fun to see, specifically, Anthony Henry on Dynamite. JD Drake and Anthony Henry, I thought, played the part perfectly. I don't know how I was feeling bad for a man like JD Drake, but again, this is the power of Bryan Danielson, and Jon Moxley definitely does it as well in his own way, but can make like the bigger guy just look like a little baby in comparison because of the technique and the violence that they both apply. Again, specifically Bryan Danielson, but I am living for this tag team. I'm loving where they're going. Poor Wheeler Yuta is going to get the crap kicked out of him by Jon Moxley again next week when they go against Best Friends Chuck Taylor and Wheeler Yuta versus Bryan Danielson and Jon Moxley. So I'm living for this. And overall, I thought the match was great. I just think if you put that match anywhere else, it would have thrived much more. And don't get me wrong, guys, I really did enjoy it. And the stiffness between, and again, these guys kicked the crap out of each other. It was just a long pay-per-view. It was a long night and a lot of inessential stuff that harms the more essential stuff, and I thought this match was more essential. And then we got this trios match: Hardy, Cassidy, and Andrade versus Sting, Allin, and Guevara. And guys, Sting is a wild man. He's a wild man. He is a wild man. The table bump was absolutely absurd. The Spanish Fly was crazy. The missed coffin drop was sad. 3 memorable spots from that match that went on way too long. That was a plunder brawl. Maybe not way too long. This match didn't need to be on this card. It just didn't. You could have put the trios match. You could have put you need like these little like cocaine bangers to basically break up the pay-per-view and break up the card, but you could have put the Face of the Revolution ladder match here, I think. I think it was the sequencing that threw me off for most of the pay-per-view, and this match just didn't need to be on the card. It just didn't. It was unnecessary, and it was really cool, and I don't want to sound like I'm not being grateful for these guys putting their bodies on the line, but especially the missed coffin drop was sad. I know they put their bodies through hell, but it was definitely a downer. But, and like, it sucks that that's what we're remembering from that match, too, out of all the crazy memorable stuff. It sucks that anybody's even talking about that. But, yeah, I thought this was fun. It just was unnecessary. And it didn't really, it woke me up, but then I was just kind of disappointed with the main event. So, but let's talk about Jeff Hardy and Matt Hardy and everybody who's memeing the Jeff Hardy dancing thing, even though his brother is getting beaten up. That was wonderful. I did agree with that. The thumbs up, thumbs down thing from Private Party AHFO, now becoming the AFO. Andrade's faction now turning on Matt Hardy. Matt Hardy is now a Hardy boy again. I like that he addressed that he has been kind of a you-know-what lately, and he's going to be better and different, and they obviously had this planned, that it was happening. Jeff Hardy looks nice. for me, let me put it this way, guys. When I was a kid, and we're gonna take you on back with me. When I was younger, I loved Jeff Hardy. I had the little armband things you can get off the WWE shop, like the little fake arm things. Like, I had those. I wanted to paint my hair. I wanted all the tattoos, which I kind of succeeded, I guess, with some of that. But, like, I wanted to be like Jeff Hardy. I thought he was the coolest. And he jumped off stuff, and I loved Jeff Hardy. I really did, and I did as I got older too. And I still love Jeff Hardy to an extent, you know. And I will always be grateful for all the stuff that Jeff Hardy put his body through. The Hardy Boys, both of them, right? Like, their peak in the 2000s, and then later on, Jeff Hardy's peak really in the main event picture with Triple H and Randy Orton and stuff. He was kind of your first Daniel Bryan story, that, for me at least, that I can remember. And but nowadays, guys, watching Jeff Hardy wrestle hurts me, because he just looks like he's in pain all the time. He just looks like he's hurting. And maybe he just needs to get rearing and ready to go. And I would love to be proven wrong that these guys can still go. I just don't need another legacy act in AEW. I didn't. But I understand why you bring in Jeff Hardy. Jeff Hardy is a draw. Think about the one time of TNA, if you didn't watch TNA, and you think about in your casual wrestling, or you are like a fan of WWE or you're a fan of AEW, whatever, but you think about TNA and you think about the one time of TNA that's probably most popular, that you've heard about, that you did hear about at the time. Last time TNA was really, the TNA specifically, so not even Impact, but the last time TNA was actually really relevant was the Hardy Boys. The broken universe thing, right? Jeff Hardy doing Jeff Hardy things. These guys have star power, and they are definitely a draw, and they are going to bring eyes to the AEW product. So it makes perfect sense why you sign them. My one concern, outside of all this, and obviously, guys, I am just another human being. I don't have any right to make any kind of judgments or anything, and I would never make any kind of judgments about somebody's struggles, but I will say that it is a risk to sign Jeff Hardy. It always is a risk to sign Jeff Hardy. It's a risk to sign anybody, but it is more of a risk to sign Jeff Hardy. Just as, sadly, like, it's a risk to re-sign and keep Jon Moxley. Like, it's just a risk to sign somebody with a substance abuse problem. It's a risk to hire somebody with a substance abuse problem, because you never know. With that being said, it's like also a risk to have Roman Reigns as your main guy, because that's a disease. He's got leukemia, and if he gets sick again, then it sucks. Like, he's out. So there's risk with everybody, and there's different kinds and higher risk of certain people. But it is scary to think, to me, right? Why did Jeff Hardy originally get released with WWE? They thought he was having some kind of substance problems again. They asked him to go to treatment and all that stuff. He said no, and now he's in AEW. I'm just a little worried. I'm just a little worried, because as a fan, I've always loved Jeff Hardy. And we, as good people who listen to the show, because only good people listen to the show, hopefully, we don't want anything bad to happen to anybody. So that's just some of my thoughts about the whole thing. But it was good to see him back, and it was an emotional moment to have them hugging. And I understand why you signed Jeff Hardy. You get a Darby Allin match. You get a Sammy Guevara match. Like, there's so much to do with Jeff Hardy in AEW. And I hope he proves me wrong and shows me that he can still go, and it doesn't hurt me to watch him wrestle. He doesn't look like he's in terrible amounts of pain. Real quick before we go back to the main event on Revolution, we had Jungle Boy and Luchasaurus versus the Acclaimed. By the way, Luchasaurus in that three-way tag team match, something else, right? Something else. But I liked the Acclaimed's rap in this. I thought the fact that they had the title on the line was cheap and unnecessary. It wasn't announced nearly in enough time beforehand, and felt like a cheap grab. I don't even know why they had to do that. Yeah, all right, let's talk about the main event here of Dynamite, actually, before we go back to the main event of Revolution and have that be our main event. But yes, we had Sammy Guevara versus Scorpio Sky, with Scorpio Sky getting the win for the TNT title. And boy, do I have a lot of thoughts about this match. I don't think it was the wrong decision to put the title on Scorpio Sky, mostly because hopefully Scorpio Sky won't carry around two belts for absolutely no reason. No reason to have two belts. It just doesn't make any sense. Yeah, I think the optics were a little bit funny with the whole Ty Conti thing. Maybe time has no meaning, but maybe it was like a year ago, but it felt like we just did the Sammy Guevara proposal thing. I think time just has no meaning for me. So I'd scratch that off the record. But I will say that this felt grabby as well. A lot of Dynamite felt grabby. With the table spot, like, was unnecessary. It was cool, yeah, but it was so unnecessary, and it didn't really apply to the story that well. If the story that is being told to me is Sammy Guevara is a crazy cat who did the Spanish fly off the thing on Sunday, so his ribs are still hurting, and then he did the 450 through the table, and that's hurt him, and he almost gets carried out, and then he's like, no, I'm gonna wrestle anyways. And then he comes in the ring and spits in Scorpio Sky's face, like Scorpio Sky, like it's the bad guy's fault that he is taking all these terrifying risks. Like, you were trying to land on Scorpio Sky. You were trying to take that bump with Scorpio Sky. Like, you were trying to do that to him. I just didn't. The optics for Sammy Guevara as the babyface were not good in this match. So, yeah, I don't know. This didn't make a lot of sense to me. So, and I wasn't, I like Paige Van Zandt. I think Paige Van Zandt has a lot of star potential. But this was all so confuddled everywhere and whatever else. I don't know, guys. Let's talk about the main event of Revolution and then get the heck out of here because my mouth is dry, I'm tired, and I'm supposedly supposed to go to IKEA. So, Hangman Page versus Adam Cole. First of all, I want to say I loved Hangman Page's gear. You can tell what state you are in by a lot of the boos that Hangman Page seemed to get because of his gear. Or because of whatever else, but I'm going to go out on a limb here and say some of it might have been because of his gear. And that is coming from somebody who wants to move to that same state. So I'm not coming here with no evidence. I have definitely, yes, there is a lot of certain kinds of people in that state that have certain kind of views, and they were definitely not aligned with Hangman Page's gear for that night. Let me put it that way. But the Adam chants were hilarious. I thought that was great. I thought that was one of the most entertaining parts about this match because this felt like an NXT TakeOver main event. It's exactly what it felt like. And some of the NXT TakeOver main events were great. Some of them were 40 minutes long and 2 hours long and unnecessary. And I thought the kickouts were unnecessary. I thought the rope grab was unnecessary. Like, I didn't think they needed to do everything they did in this match because it seems like they're continuing on the story. So I really wasn't a fan of this main event. I wasn't a fan. I thought it was a good wrestling match, and I thought the rest of the card, if the rest of the card maybe wasn't so long, maybe I would have enjoyed it more. But I thought that, again, more table spots in this, like, that felt grabby. Like, how many times are we going to put someone through a table? I didn't mind the kick out of the boom with the knee pad on. I liked that little spot, but to me, I take it back. It just felt unnecessary. How many Panama Sunrises did we do? We did one outside of the ring. Like, it felt like let's just hit our big spots and kick out of them, which is very WWE, and I just wasn't a fan. This subjectively wasn't for me, and it seems like we're carrying on the feud. I don't know why they're separating Hangman Page and the Dark Order. A lot of this I'm ready to just let play out, guys. I'm not going to make any judgments from here on out. I'm similar to the first part of the show. I'm just, and similar to the Jeff Hardy stuff, I'm just going to be along for the ride and not make any judgments until we see what's coming down the pipe. So that was your AEW Week in Review. I just talked straight for about an hour. So if you guys are still here with me, you can follow me on Twitter at Mimi Burris. Let me know your thoughts about all of this stuff, and yeah.
Thanks for listening to the WWE Podcast. Don't forget to subscribe on your favorite podcast app so you don't miss a show, or head to WWEpodcast.com. And for all of these shows ad-free, head over to patreon.com/WWE Podcast. Until then, we'll see you next time.